Hello, everyone. Welcome to duCret. You want to take your seats and get ready? My name's Tim O'Connor. I'm the executive director here at duCret, and we are very glad and honored to be participating in the League of Women Voters rally today for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Welcome for. And we'll kick things off with the president of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, Nancy Hedinger.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I first would like to thank duCret for providing us with this wonderful venue to have this socially distant rally on behalf of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and also to our two tenacious organizers, Timothy Priano and Debbie McCumber, who just a little over 2 weeks ago said, New Jersey needs to have a march. We have to honor her legacy. We cannot let this day pass. And in spite of my concerns, they plowed through. And so I want to thank them and thank you all for being here. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and all the sponsoring leagues, I want to welcome you all to this amazing celebration of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy. As you've heard, I have the honor of serving as the president of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that works towards a vision where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. I should look at my notes before I do this. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a trailblazer who challenged the status quo and bucked tradition, upending gender norms and societal expectations of women. When she was denied opportunities, she created her own and opened doors for all of us. Justice Ginsburg's wisdom, tenacity, and dedication to equal rights embodied the League's belief in the power of women to create a more perfect democracy. Thank you. I lost my place. We are all indebted to her. May she rest in power. I have a statement from Senator Loretta Weinberg that I've been asked to read because she's not able to join us. Justice Ginsburg's presence on the Supreme Court has shaped American jurisprudence for decades, from establishing marriage equality and defending voting rights. But the fight does not end with a single court case. Our efforts need to be persistent at all levels of government, local, county, state, and federal. While we have lost a liberal lion, her spirit continues to live on. She lived by the mantra, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Every single one of us must live by this and inspire the next generation of troublemakers. Educate, organize, and vote. And now it is my honor to present to you our MC for the day, Elizabeth Meyer, founder of the New Jersey Women's March.
Thank you, Nancy. Real change, enduring change happens one step at a time. Those are the words of Justice Ginsburg, and that's what we're here to continue to do today, to demand change. What we have been doing for centuries and for decades. And as frustrating as it is, one of the lessons we've learned from Justice Ginsburg is that if you do fight and continue to fight, that change slowly will happen. To kick things off today, I'd like to welcome Ashley Davis, who is a councilwoman from Plainfield and chair of the Health and Social Services Committee, to do the Pledge of Allegiance and share some of her thoughts with us today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. So good afternoon. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to come before you today. I am Councilwoman Ashley Davis. I'm a member of the Plainfield Municipal Council. So I bring you greetings on behalf of the wonderful city of Plainfield, where we are right now, where Adrian O'Mac is the mayor, and on behalf of the entire council body, where Steve Hockaday is the council president. Now that we have the formalities out the way, we can get to the point of why we're here. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, "To make life a little better for people less fortunate than you, that's what I think a meaningful life is. One lives not just for oneself, but for one's community." And civil rights icon Fannie Lou Hamer once said, "Nobody's free until everybody's free." So when we talk about justice of any kind, gender justice, racial justice, and economic justice, the burden of fighting for that justice rests not only with the individuals looking to achieve it, but also with the people who are privileged to already have it. I know privilege has become a polarizing word in today's time, but the discussion around privilege is more than just race. So in the fight for justice, we need to check our privilege at the door and use it to help the most marginalized among us. So to my cisgendered heterosexual women, it's our job to fight for the plight of all of our LGBTQ sisters, including our trans women. To my Christian women, it's our duty to fight for the religious freedoms of all non-Christian women so they too can choose to worship in whatever way they want to. To my women who hold multiple degrees, it's our duty to fight for the educational rights of girls and women everywhere. Because when you educate a woman, you educate a whole community. To the women who have quality health care, it is our duty to fight for affordable health care for everyone. Because we know when people, go ahead. We know that when people have access to affordable health care, it makes us healthier as a community. To our allies, you also have a place in this fight for justice. If you have the privilege to have autonomy over your own bodies and to make medical decisions, it is your duty to fight for that same autonomy for everyone else. We know that when people have autonomy over their own bodies, they do not have to risk their lives to get medical procedures that they need or they want. Banning abortion does not stop abortion. It simply stops safe abortion. We also know that why or when women choose to get abortion is literally no one's business. While we have come a long way since the Women's Suffrage Parade of 1913 or the nomination of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 1993, the fight remains and we will push forward in progress. Remember to keep fighting, keep voting, and keep advocating for the oppressed. Thank you.
Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It should not be that women are the exception. And I think Councilwoman Davis is a fantastic example of that, and one that we are very grateful is one of those decision makers. And another one of those decision makers is our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Assemblywoman Linda Carter, representing District 22.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to tell you something. When we can come together, that is a statement in itself. But when we can come together to make sure that we're standing for the rights that we have, that is another statement that we should always take and make. Justice Ginsburg was an individual who continued to make statements. She did it quietly, she did it forcefully, in her own way. When you look at all the things that she had to accomplish in her lifetime, it's only a minuscule of what some of us have accomplished in ours. But I'm going to tell you something. We're going to continue to fight the battle that she has made sure that has come to the forefront. We've been fighting, women have been fighting for their rights for years, since the inception. It seems like we have always had someone in our way. But if we stop, and if we don't come together, if we don't talk about it, and if we don't bring it up, we will continue to be not in the forefront, but behind others. And we're not going to do that. We are going to continue to fight together to make sure our voices are heard and move forward. Justice for all is what we are voting, what we are looking to do, and we want to make sure that justice is had for everyone as we move through our journey in this world that we call life. Life is a hard journey. We hit so many barriers and all, but to have someone treat me differently because I'm a woman, to treat me differently because I can think for myself, is not a world that I see or I choose to live in. I choose to live in a world that we all respect each other, that we make sure that each one of our voices are heard, and we do not suppress not a vote, we do not suppress not a voice, and we do not suppress each other for the choices that they make in their life. We need to come together as one and continue the fight as we move forward. On behalf of Senator Nick Scutari, Assemblyman Jim Kennedy, and myself, who represent Legislative District 22 here for the state of New Jersey, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this. I know that Tim was around here doing stuff for the last 2 weeks and wanted to make sure, but you can see from the turnout here that this is an important issue and something we want to make sure that Justice Ginsburg's voice never is silenced. She may not be here with us in flesh, but she will always be with us to move our message forward and also to make sure that each and every one of our voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. There is no truth without Ruth. But did you know that Ruth was not actually always Ruth? She was born Joan Ruth Bader in 1933. When she was a baby, she kicked so much that they gave her the nickname of Kiki, and she stayed Kiki until she went to school. And when she went to school, her mother realized that there were actually several Joans in her class and suggested that she go by the name of Ruth, and that's how she became Ruth Bader. Up next to share some thoughts is the chair of the Environmental Justice Task Force of Unitarian Universalist FaithAction. She is also on the Environmental Justice Advisory Council for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nancy Griffith.
Thank you. How I miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What a powerful advocate for equal treatment of all people. But also how I love the League of Women Voters. Without the women who fought for women's rights, would Ruth Bader Ginsburg have ever been a Supreme Court justice? And I particularly love the work that Helen Keogh's did in New Jersey on redistricting. She helped to organize protests and lobbying that stopped cold a totally political redistricting plan in late 2018. Okay, so I was introduced as a member of the Environmental Justice Task Force of Unitarian Universalist FaithAction, which is a mouthful to say. And so I just want to explain a little bit what we are. We're a faith-based group which works to put the principles of our faith into action in the laws of New Jersey. The principles will sound familiar to League members, since some of them are quite close to the positions of the League. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We believe in justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We seek world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And we respect the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Today, I want to talk about a bill that was recently signed into law by the governor and will promote environmental equity in communities that are sometimes called sacrifice zones in New Jersey. These communities are so overburdened with pollution that children's health is severely impacted. In Newark, 1 in 4 children have asthma, 3 times the national rate. In general, air pollution is worse in New Jersey than the rest of the nation and causes not just asthma, but all sorts of heart and lung diseases. The bill I mentioned has been called the Cumulative Impacts Bill and requires the state to consider not just the additional pollution that a facility would add to a community's burden, but the total amount of pollution in the community when it's considering a new permit or a permit renewal. This can help to rescue communities with multiple sources of pollution. The reality is that in New Jersey and elsewhere, there are low-income communities. These are low-income communities and communities of color without the political clout to fight when industry decides to put in new plants. Signing the bill into law is only the first step to preventing further pollutants in these communities. The rulemaking process begins now and will determine how effective the bill will be. Industry will be fighting every step of the way to make sure the rules are weak. We must also engage in the rulemaking process to make sure that the rules will actually protect our health and that of our fellow citizens in all communities of New Jersey. October 22 is the first hearing, and I urge you to attend via Zoom. It's a virtual hearing, and I'm sure Ruth Bader Ginsburg would tell you to get involved to make sure your communities are safe and healthy. Thank you.
Ginsburg, we should not be held back from pursuing our full talents, from contributing what we could contribute to society because we fit into a certain mold, because we belong to a group that historically has been the object of discrimination. Our next guest is the New Jersey State Conference VP, Northern New Jersey Regional President Coordinator, and the Morris County Branch President of the NAACP. Please welcome Vanessa Brown.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, League of Women Voters, President, directors, members, staff, and friends. Give yourselves a round of applause for feeling that this is important enough to come out to listen to. Again, my name is Vanessa Brown. I'm the president for the Morris County branch of the NAACP in New Jersey, Morristown, New Jersey, the third vice president for the state conference, and also the liaison for the northern presidents for the northern side of New Jersey. We appreciate the League of Women Voters because you are doing a great thing around the state. You are, in essence, behaving just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She represented the voiceless, and that's exactly what we do. We are nonpartisan, but very political. The mission of the NAACP is, well, first of all, for those of you who don't know what the acronym NAACP stands for, it's for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And basically, we strive to have equality in all areas of life with regards to housing, education, criminal justice, finances, economic development, just like everyone else. And so, as Judge Ginsburg did, she represented those who felt they had no voice. We have chapters throughout the country, and we're really verging into internationally just to do exactly what she did. And you all remember John Lewis. I want you to clap it up for him too. And what you remember from John Lewis was to get into good trouble. So, we as leaders must continue to give a platform and support those who choose to run and represent the voiceless. How much money that one can raise should not be the litmus test for a great candidate. It takes real sacrifice. Which candidate's platform represents the opinions that you have? Have they delivered on their promise? We should continue to urge our communities to attend local meetings, state meetings where decisions making is taking place. We also should support those people, whether it is attending the meetings, to be an additional voice to their plight. But we have to plan even voting given COVID and the activities that have been going on around this country. It was suggested that families should actually sit down and discuss the candidates and discuss what it is that they're doing that represents you and your community. That's the next step that we have, because we don't have Judge Ginsburg there, but her legacy will be there, and we need to support it and support each other. Again, I thank you for allowing me to come out and share a few minutes with you today, and I appreciate the League of Women Voters. Keep going. We hear you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Justice Ginsburg, the second woman and the first Jewish woman ever appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. She was also the first Supreme Court justice to officiate a same-sex wedding. On August 31st in 2013, she married Michael Kaiser, the president of the Kennedy Center, and his husband, John Roberts. Next, we would like to welcome the coordinator of the Union County Office of LGBTQ Affairs, Danny Newberry.
Thank you. How awesome are all of you people for being here this afternoon? So I am here representing the Union County Office of LGBTQ Affairs, and I'd like to take a moment just quickly to point out that this office was established by the Freeholder Board, the Union County Freeholder Board, in 2018. This is the only government office in the state of New Jersey serving the LGBTQ community. And we are one of just 4 government offices in the country. That is not good. I'm also here representing the New Jersey chapter of the National Organization on Women as the Vice President of Action. So, as you heard earlier, Ruth Bader Ginsburg showed us how to fight for the things that we care about and to do it in a way that leads others to join us. All throughout our lives right now, there are so many forces working to divide us. And that's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. We're here because LGBTQ youth are overrepresented in foster care. We're here because suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 to 24, and LGBTQ youth are almost 5 times as likely have attempted suicide compared to their heterosexual youth. We're here because all the people throughout our history who have fought for our civil rights, people like New Jersey native from Elizabeth, New Jersey, Marsha P. Johnson, who stood up and fought back and ignited the LGBTQ rights movement that we see today. We're here because since 2016, there have been over 150 policy attacks to the progression this country has made toward full equality for LGBTQ community. Attacks that specifically seek to undermine the rights of countless Americans. We're here because this year the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has redefined sex in order to exclude transgender people from federal non-discrimination protections, a move that is intended to erase LGBTQ protections across other federal agencies. We're here because there are more than 2.7 million LGBT older adults living in communities across this country, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, especially after a lifetime of experiencing discrimination and stigma that they still experience today in the systems designed to support them. We're here because racism exists and people of color, LGBTQ people of color, experience vicious discriminations motivated by homophobia, transphobia, and racial prejudice. We're here because the LGBTQ community is the only community worldwide that is not taught its history at home, in public schools, or in religious institutions. We're here because history is repeating itself at record time, y'all, and we have got to stop acting like nothing is happening. A vote is not a Valentine. You aren't confessing your love for the candidate. Amen. It's a chess move. And if there's anything that I've learned from Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy, it's that chess moves matter. It could not be more clear that LGBTQ equality is on the ballot right now. Every day is election day until November 3rd. Please join me in the fight for LGBTQ rights. And I'm going to say it, vote, damn it.
Just like Danny Newberry, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a fighter. She had 5 bouts of cancer, including surgeries, chemotherapy, and radiation, and she never missed a day on the bench. She broke 3 ribs when she fell in her office when she was 85 years old, and she went back to work the next day. Her husband, Marty, died days after their 56th wedding anniversary, and she returned to work the following day. In her 25 years, she only missed 1 day of work, and that was to have cancer removed from her left lung. Next, we would like to welcome another fighter, Patricia Williamson. She is the New Jersey Counts Project Director from the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, and she is also a director on the board of the League of Women Voters, New Jersey.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I am Patricia Williamson, and I work with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. The New Jersey Institute for Social Justice uses cutting-edge racial and social justice advocacy to empower people of color by building reparative systems that create wealth, transform justice, and harness democratic power from the ground up in New Jersey. And I'm honored to speak with you today, both as the New Jersey Counts Project Director for the Institute and also as a director with the League of Women Voters New Jersey Board. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a diminutive woman with a gigantic vision to level the playing field for women and minorities everywhere. She leaves behind an unforgettable legacy in the continuing struggle for social justice. May her memory be for a blessing. The cracks of structural racism are erupting as earthquakes in Black and other communities of color. We must repair the cracks and build a new foundation. Justice Ginsburg said, just as buildings in California have a greater need to be earthquake-proofed, places where there's greater racial polarization in voting have a greater need for prophylactic measures to prevent purposeful race discrimination. This came as part of her dissent to the Supreme Court's 2013 decision to strike down key parts of the Voting Rights Act. This is the Voting Rights Act we're struggling with today. We have had state successes against barriers to voting, such as online voter registration, expanding vote by mail, and restoring the right to vote to 83,000 residents on parole or probation. We still, however, seek full restoration of the Voting Rights Act. I hope you registered to vote prior to Tuesday's October 13th deadline. Now, turn your focus to voter education and mobilization. Voter education is in two parts this year: learning who and what is on the ballot, and then how to actually complete the ballot. Consider hosting a candidates forum virtually with other members of your community and organization. Once you are ready to vote, make sure you know how to complete your paper ballot and cast your vote. You can vote in 5 different ways for the New Jersey general election on November 3rd. 1, through the U.S. Postal Service, which must be postmarked by November 3rd and will be counted if received by November 10th. Secondly, via secure drop box by 8 p.m. on November 3rd. Third, bring your vote by mail ballot to your County Board of Elections by November 3rd. Fourth, bring your VBM ballot to your polling place on Election Day. And fifth, vote in person by provisional paper ballot at your polling place on Election Day. We have flyers from the Institute over there and links to websites with frequently asked questions about this, and links to websites with important information, such as the possible new location of your polling place. I hope you also took the opportunity to complete Census 2020. Although Plainfield did not reach its 2010 self-response rates, it was the leading hard-to-count city tracked by the Institute, which was at 59.1% self-response rate. The federal government allocated over $45 billion annually to New Jersey state and local governments based on census data, which funds our public health and school programs, construction of roads and bridges, and emergency services. This was a challenging collection year, but I'd like to thank you and so many others for pushing through to the end. We stand ready to call on Congress to pass the Census Deadline Extension Act to allow the Census Bureau the 4 months it originally requested to fully analyze its data. This is one of the most consequential election years in a generation. It is more important now than ever that we are all civically engaged, informed, and able to vote for elected officials aligned with our interests. Continue to do your part in getting into good trouble and in achieving social justice.
Justice Ginsburg was strong in mind, but she was also strong in body. And for the last 20 years of her life, she worked out twice weekly with a personal trainer, the same one that Justice Kagan uses. And her regime included an elliptical warm-up, squats, planks, medicine ball tosses using a 12-pound ball, and push-ups. In fact, she regularly did more than 20 push-ups, and she did it all while listening to classical music. And now our next speaker, I know, is a runner, and also, works out, but I'm not quite sure if she would be able to have kept up with her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Erin Chung, the Director of Marketing and Communications for Planned Parenthood and founder and president of Women for Progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's getting chilly just sitting here, so if you want to get up and shake it out, I'm all for it. Find a spot in the sun. I'm really excited for this turnout. You've got other things I'm sure you could be doing today, but we appreciate you being here with us. My name is Erin Chung. I'm the founder and executive director of a 501c4 called Women for Progress. We have a table over there. We have these fabulous sweatshirts over there if you need one, and I have my Planned Parenthood. I'm representing under here with my Planned Parenthood shirt too, but it's too cold, so. And my friend Austin is here also representing the Planned Parenthood Action Fund of New Jersey, and he's over there and has all kinds of free swag for you, so please take whatever you'd like. I have thought for a few days since they've asked me to speak here about the best way to use my 3 minutes, and I am going to keep it to 3 minutes, to impart to you all the importance of access to abortion care in this country. And I realized I've got stories going back about 25 years about why the access and legality of this medical service is so critical to women everywhere. I also realize I'm probably preaching to the choir in this audience, but I have found that storytelling is a really important way to let people know why we need access. So I'm going to share a few stories with you that I hope you can share when asked why we should keep abortion safe and legal. Here's a few stories to highlight why all women, despite age, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religious affiliation, education, and geographical location, should have access to abortion care. A woman and her husband were thrilled to find out she was pregnant for the first time. Then she received the diagnosis of metastatic breast cancer. She had to choose between life-saving chemotherapy and radiation or her pregnancy. A woman was attacked at knife point in Philadelphia and jumped 3 stories to escape her attacker. In a coma for 5 weeks, her parents signed a consent form to terminate in the event the attack resulted in a pregnancy. At 18, a college student is impregnated against her will. When she goes to the clinic to receive abortion care, she is told by a staffer with zero kindness or empathy, "It looks like it was a girl." A woman with a diagnosed schizoaffective disorder makes the decision with her husband not to have children, as she feels she would be a harm to her potential children the way she was harmed by her mentally ill parents growing up. Her birth control fails, and she must travel 3.5 hours out of state, pass through protesters throwing things at her and calling her names in order to receive her care. There are so many stories, and they have happened to women we know and women we love and women we look up to. There are mothers, daughters, aunts, friends, sisters, colleagues, teachers. They are 1 in 4 of us. The bottom line is reproductive health care is health care. What women do with their bodies should be their decision. As Justice Ginsburg said, it is essential to women's equality with man that she be the decision maker, that her voice be controlling. If you impose restraints that impede her choice, you are disadvantaging her because of her sex. I support Planned Parenthood, and I hope you always will too. Thank you.
Throughout her life, Justice Ginsburg always cited her mother as one of her primary inspirations. And as a mother, one of the things you have to consider with your children is how do you define what it means to identify as a woman? And Justice Ginsburg's mother gave her this piece of advice. She said, "My mother told me to be a lady." And that, for her, that meant to be your own person, to be independent. Next, we would like to welcome the Vice President of the Lupe Fund, which seeks to educate, empower, and engage Latinas. She is also a director on the board of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, Yvette Mosquera.
Buenas tardes a todos. Buenas. Para mi gente latina voy a hablar en español un par de minutos. Quisiera decirles y agradecerles por estar aquí y a League of Women Voters, gracias por tenernos aquí, por representar a las latinas de New Jersey. Estoy muy orgullosa de ser latina, born and raised in Newark to Ecuadorian parents, immigrants who came across the border illegally in the 70s, and they built a family here. They worked hard, they made us study, they taught us. My mom from day one said, "You do not depend on any man. You will be your own woman." So I want to thank everyone, especially the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, for having faith in me, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful group. We love them. As part of Latinas United for Political Empowerment, Lupe, we do a lot of advocacy, education, engagement for Latinas, but we like to think that we are very inclusive. We also have sisters who are Black, sisters who are Asian, sisters who are Caucasian, who are part of our organization as well. And when we go out there, we do a lot of voter education, get out the vote, voter registration, but we don't do it alone. We do it with organizations like the League. We do it with organizations like Planned Parenthood. We do it with other organizations throughout the state. We're not in it alone. We're in it together. And I feel that I'm very privileged and happy to be part of this organization. As a Latina mom, I want to make sure that the right people are in office. I want to make sure that we are well represented as women, as Latinas, that we keep fighting for equal pay, that we keep fighting for equal treatment in healthcare. And, with this crisis, we have seen the disparities in healthcare for people with disabilities, for Latinos, for African American people. And we need to keep fighting against that. And that's why you're all here, and that's why we're all here, and I want to thank you. At Lupe, we also give out scholarships to young ladies who are up-and-coming leaders. They're already leaders, a lot of them. And we're so proud to have a group of young women who are now physicians, engineers. They are now professional corporate leaders, and that's what we're striving for. And that's why we work with the League and with all of you to try to get more Latinas into positions of power. We need to take back that power, and we need to make sure that we're all represented in government, in healthcare, in education. And so I want to thank everybody who's here. I'm so honored to be next to such amazing women, and thanks to the guys too for supporting us. The guys deserve a round of applause too. We need more men. We need more men to come and support us. Gracias a todos. Thank you, Nancy, for everything all the opportunities you've given me. You've become a mentor, and thank you. Gracias a todos.
Throughout her career, Justice Ginsburg was always known as an advocate, a fighter for women's rights. But sometimes if you asked her about that, she would say, I don't say women's rights. I say the constitutional principle of the equal citizenship stature of men and women. And up next is someone who knows the power of words and language. She is the assistant prosecutor for Union County. She is also the diversity representative of the Young Lawyers Division of the New Jersey State Bar Association. Please put your hands together and welcome Nashina Porter.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Nashina Porter. I'm an assistant prosecutor at the Union County Prosecutor's Office. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to speak today. When I prepared my speech, I knew that I would not be the only one to open my speech with one by the Honorable Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Luckily, Justice Ginsburg has so many great quotes that I genuinely doubted that there would be overlap. One of her quotes that is especially pertinent at this time is, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. At the Union County Prosecutor's Office, this is a sentiment that is the core of the job. Our mission is to fight for communities all over Union County, to keep them safe, to let community members know that if they are wrong, we will hold the wrongdoers accountable. Luckily, we are not in this fight alone. We are assisted every day by community leaders, everyday citizens, and police officers. The last line of our mission statement states, it is the mission of the Union County Prosecutor's Office to allow the people of this county to live their lives without fear that those lives will be diminished by the acts of those who would betray the laws of a civilized society. I'm not sure that there is another run-on sentence that exists that I hold more close to my heart. Our office defends people's rights in our society. We are not the only ones doing it, but it's what we do every day. Some would say that that's a trickier task these days. And I can clarify why this job is so hard, but yet so important. Every day my office speaks with victims, accusers, and the accused. Every day, my office speaks with those who have had their worldview shattered by crime or the proximity to crime. Every day, my office is tasked with defending our county's rights in society among those who possess it, and restoring it among those who don't. Recently, the concept of law and order has been at the front of the zeitgeist. The irony, as it appears to me, is that those touting law and order are trying to use it like a hammer. In my experience, law and order is more like a book club. You increase membership through positive word of mouth, and the more that people buy in, show up, and cooperate, the more thought-provoking and constructive your book club is. This generates more positive word of mouth, which births a positive cycle that reverberates through the community. My office is built about bringing together community members to protect justice for all, freedom for all. So please vote. Thank you.
Sometimes people would say to Justice Ginsburg, how do you do it? How do you get through things on a daily basis? How do you continue to fight? And here's some advice that she had. She said, every now and then it helps to be a little deaf. Not simply in dealing with my marriage, but in dealing with my colleagues. And my husband, who's here, can probably attest to that as well. And so can I. Up next, please welcome Union County Outreach Lead for Moms Demand Action, Kathleen Dolan.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for extending the invitation to us to speak to you today. We're here in solidarity with citizens around the world who value and respect the essential imperative to promote and protect human rights that were so passionately advocated by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg throughout her life and career. We all miss her, and we'll do all we can to carry her torch as far as future generations and we can take it. So my name is Kathleen Dolan. I live here in Union County. I'm the Community Outreach Lead for the Union County Moms Demand Action Group. I'm joined here today by our local group lead, Patty Wilson-Fico, and other longtime mom supporters. And I'm pleased to be here to add to our collective voice, speaking to uphold everyone's basic human rights guaranteed by our Constitution and laws. As you may know, the Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America group is a grassroots, nonpartisan movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence and keep our families safe. We all deserve the right to live without fear of gun violence impacting our communities. Moms Demand Action has a chapter in every state, and together with Mayors Against Illegal Guns, Students Demand Action, and the Everytown Survivor Network, we're part of the nation's largest gun violence prevention organization, totaling over 5 million supporters and growing. Why is working to prevent gun violence so important? Over 100 Americans die from gun violence every day, and hundreds more are wounded. It is the second leading cause of death for American children and teens overall, and it is the first leading cause of death for Black children and teens. The daily toll of gun violence doesn't always make headlines, but this violence affects everyone, everywhere. It strikes big cities, small towns, and rural communities. So what does Moms Demand Action do to combat gun violence? We work with survivors, mayors, law enforcement officers, faith leaders, educators, gun owners, doctors, and communities across our country who all agree there is more we can do to prevent gun violence. We can support gun ownership while doing much more to keep guns out of the wrong hands and create a culture of gun safety. Here are just 4 of the most important evidence-based policies we advocate for. First, we're urging lawmakers to close loopholes in the system that right now make it possible for people to buy a gun without a background check. Second, we support red flag laws, and we have one in New Jersey that allow family and law enforcement to intervene if somebody poses a threat to themselves or others before deadly tragedies involving firearms take place. Third, this month happens to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and you may not know that more than half of women murdered with guns in America are killed by an intimate partner or family member. Women are 5 times more likely to be killed in a domestic violence confrontation when a gun is present. We must strengthen laws that help keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. And fourth, We want our government to support efforts to combat daily gun violence by funding new research into gun violence, community-driven, evidence-based interventions to curb city gun violence, and new tools to help law enforcement collect evidence, trace all crime guns, reduce gun trafficking, and solve gun crimes. It's time for our government to enact common sense gun laws supported by the overwhelming majority of Americans. In fact, some of these laws have already been passed by the U.S. House of Representatives, one of them almost 600 days ago, but they have not been taken up by the Senate. We all have the right to live in an environment free of gun violence, and we need to elect leaders who will make that a reality. Thank you.
Of wisdom from Justice Ginsburg, and please, if you find this to be true, please clap. So often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be great good fortune. Our next guest is Paul Aronson. He is the State Ombudsman for Individuals with Intellectual or Developmental Disabilities and their families. Please welcome Paul.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. As you just found out, I have the longest title in state government, but it's really an honor to have this position. It's a brand new position that was created about 2.5 years ago. I'm appointed by Governor Murphy, and my job is to work with individuals and families throughout the state who have intellectual developmental disabilities and help make sure that they get the services and supports that they need, and help to make sure that their rights, their civil rights and their human rights are protected. And so I'm very grateful to be here today, really for two reasons. First of all, I'm a big fan of the League of Women Voters. I actually was a dues-paying member for a couple of years, and so I'm very familiar and very grateful for the work that you do, Nancy, and your team throughout the state. And second, I'm really grateful to be here because I too, like everybody here, is a big fan of Justice Ginsburg. And I say that not just as a disability advocate, I say that as a human being, as a citizen, as a father, as a son, as somebody who believes very strongly in progressive values and who's very proud of the country and the promise of our country. And so it's great to be here. Thank you. But as a disability advocate, there are many reasons why I find to celebrate the life of Justice Ginsburg. I mean, first, it's really important to remember that people with disabilities are in every family, every community, neighborhood, every walk of life. And we span the spectrum of all sort of the groups in society, you know, gender, racial, cultural, we're everywhere. And so when we talk about Justice Ginsburg's work that she's done to advance the cause of people with disabilities, we have to start to recognize that whether we're talking about her work to sort of promote gender equality, LGBTQ equality, racial equality, cultural equality, social justice in general, those are things that benefited folks with disabilities, millions of people with disabilities. And when we talk about the work she's done to advance and protect important pieces of policy and legislation like the Affordable Care Act and provisions like, concerning Medicaid expansion and pre-existing conditions, that is really important to millions of Americans with disabilities. But if you ask anybody with a disability about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her role in their lives, they're going to go back to 1999 to the landmark Olmstead decision by the Supreme Court. This, for our community, was the civil rights moment, human rights moment also. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not just part of that 6-3 majority in that decision, but she actually wrote the majority opinion. And through that decision and through her powerful words, she effectively broke the back of segregation and institutionalization of people with disabilities throughout the country. And the Americans with Disabilities Act had been enacted 9 years earlier in 1990. But through this decision, and again, through Justice Ginsburg's powerful words, she spoke in no uncertain terms that people with disabilities, like all other people, should have the same rights and opportunities. They should be able to make choices about where they live and about how they live. And so when we think of, in the disability community about Justice Ginsburg, she is a champion unlike any other. She is someone who has affected so many lives in a positive way already, and going forward, it will be the same. So I'm so grateful to be here. She is truly a champion of ours. Thank you.
Justice Ginsburg said, "I want to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent she had to do her work to the very best of her ability, and to help repair tears in her society, to make things a little better through the use of whatever ability she has, to do something, as my colleague David Satter would say, outside myself, because I've gotten much more satisfaction for the things that I've done for which I was not paid." Now we are proud to welcome a woman who fits that definition. She is an environmental justice organizer for Clean Water Action of New Jersey, Kim Gaddy.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. And like all the other speakers, I do want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing me to share this day with each and every one of you. As was stated by Elizabeth, my name is Kim Gaddy, and I am the Environmental Justice Organizer for Clean Water Action. Clean Water Action is the largest environmental organization in the state of New Jersey. We have 100,000 members. Nationally, we have 14 offices and over 1 million members. We are the organization that established the Clean Water Act in 1972. And it is so relevant that today, as we are here for Ruth Bader Ginsburg Legacy Rally, that all of the speakers before me have mentioned the fact that it is about lifting up the voices. But I want to add a little piece to that. And I want to lift up all the voices in the frontline communities who suffer each and every day from disproportionate pollution that leads to deaths from asthma, respiratory illnesses, cancers. And it is not something by choice. It is something called environmental racism. And because of the zip code that we decided to live in, the color of our skin, and our social economics, we are disproportionately polluted upon. And that is something that we have to continue to fight for. And so I know you heard this quote 4 times before, but it resonates with me and the work that I do. And as so many have said, RBG, one of her top quotes is, "You have to fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." And so I started this fight 20 years ago because my daughter, my second child, she's out here, she's 20 years old. And at the age of 1, she was diagnosed with asthma. My oldest son has asthma, and my 16-year-old has asthma as well. And I left municipal government as a chief of staff because I said, what is going on in our communities? How come we have so many individuals who are dying a silent death? You hear about the homicides in most of our communities, but more people in a year die of respiratory illnesses and asthma than homicides in my city of Newark. But people don't talk about it. And so that quote inspired me to roll up my sleeves and begin to be present in the conversations that was impacting my life and my children's life. And that it should not be that because some individuals have the financial means, they have the ability to drink safe and affordable drinking water or breathe clean air. That should not be. And I was trying to read my points, but I'm just going to keep going. But one other thing that was stated by Nancy, who is one of the members of New Jersey Environmental Justice Advisory Council, of which I am the vice chair, and we were both appointed by Governor Murphy, she mentioned the Environmental Justice Cumulative Impact Law. I have been fighting for that law for 12 years. And we started with Senator Weinberg, so I'm glad that you started off today with a letter from her. We started this fight with her over 12 years ago. But we had individuals in the legislature that didn't understand that environmental racism and in the environmental injustices exist in the state of New Jersey. So we had to continue to fight. And just a month ago, with the help of Senator Troy Singleton, we was able to get this law passed. And I do want to thank each and every one of you. We had 600 organizations that supported us because it was the right thing to do. And that's the fierceness that Ruth Bader Ginsburg also had. She knew how to articulate the message so that it would resonate with people and they would stand up and do something about it. So on the 20th, if you go on cleanwateraction.org/New Jersey, the 3 leading organizations, Clean Water Action, Ironbound Community Corp, and New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, we're going to have a Zoom and an introduction to this law. And it is very important that everyone participate. So you will have the opportunity to hear from the advocates, and then you can join on the 22nd to hear what NJDEP is going to say as well. And as I conclude with some of my remarks, I want to invite some of you also. Today, the Mount Clair Film Festival is showing Sacrifice Zones. The Ironbound Community Corporation that is located in the East Ward, I live in the South Ward. Both of our wards are in the middle of the 3rd largest port in the nation. So 20,000 trucks come through our port each and every day. 4,500 of those trucks stay on our local roads, spewing contaminants in our neighborhoods. This movie, Sacrifice Zones, will show you what has been happening in this community. And it will get you to see why we have to change what we have been doing. And we have to make environmental justice a fight for everyone. It is not just for the people of color or those that are marginalized. The air has no boundary. So what is affecting me in North is going to blow to each and every of the other communities throughout this state. And so I didn't read what I had, but I'm going to end with this because I know I'm with 3 minutes. This shirt I'm wearing today, my daughter actually made this shirt when she was participating in the Black Lives Matter marches, and it says, "My life matters." And all of our lives matter. So I just want to end with, let your voice, vote, organize in communities every day be heard. Power to the people.
Frankie Gaddy, where are you? Where's your daughter?
Frankie.
Frankie, can you please stand up? Frankie is also one of the founding members of March for Our Lives in Newark. So Frankie, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, people ask me sometimes when. When do you think it will be enough? When will there be enough women on the court? And my answer is when there are 9. People are shocked, but there'd be 9 men, and nobody's ever raised a question about that. Please welcome a woman who is a fierce fighter for justice. She is a certified nurse specializing in trauma and psychiatric nursing. She is also an advocate for the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, providing opportunities for citizens discharged from correctional facilities, and they are focused on restoring voting rights and registering those on parole or probation. Please welcome Annette Scott.
Good afternoon, and I'm sure glad to get up because I was getting stiff. But here I am. I am Annette Scott of the League of Women Voters of Southern Monmouth County. And thank you, I have formed a partnership with the Reentry program and GEO, which is the State Parole Board. The Reentry program in 8 counties assists citizens who have been incarcerated, and when they are discharged, they report there to have assistance with employment opportunities, social services, and whatever else they may need. And the GEO, which is from the State Parole Board, they only have those who are on parole or probation, and they work with them to do the same thing. Now, what I have been doing for the past few weeks is visiting. Out of 16, I went to 13 throughout the state, parole facilities, and registered for the first time in 176 years, since 1844, those citizens on parole and probation. Thank you. Now, when I was asked to speak, Timothy had sent me a note saying, "What did Ruth Bader Ginsburg mean to me?" Well, since I'm so compassionate about voting, I looked it up, did my research, and found out she made a very important decision regarding voting, and also affirmative action. 7 years ago, in 2013, the Supreme Court issued one of the most consequential rulings in a generation in a case called Shelby versus Holder. In a 5-4 vote, the court struck down a formula at the heart of the Voting Rights Act. The law was a landmark for 1965. It required certain states and localities with a history of discrimination against minority voters to get changes cleared by the federal government before they went into effect. In 2013, Ruth Bader Ginsburg dissented in Shelby versus Holder. She wrote, "Throwing out pre-clearance when it has worked and is continuing to work to stop discrimination changes is like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you are not getting wet." And with affirmative action, she wrote in favor of affirmative action in her dissent in Getz versus Bollinger. This was in 2003, in which the court ruled an affirmative policy unconstitutional because it was not narrowly tailored to the state's interest in diversity. She argued that government decision makers may properly distinguish between policies of exclusion and inclusion. Actions designed to burden groups long denied full citizenship stature are not sensibly ranked, with measures taken to hasten the day when entrenched discrimination and its after effects have been extirpated. And it was changed. So I thank you all very much. And I have had quite a few volunteers approach me today because they want to work with me, Miss Jackie Cobb, and several others. They want to work with me and go to the parole facilities and register those voters. Thank you.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "You can disagree without being disagreeable." And our next speaker challenges those who seek to trample our rights each day in the most undisagreeable way possible. Please welcome the Director of Development for ACLU New Jersey, Diane DeBrew.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here with you today at a time when so much hangs in the balance. I'm proud to represent the ACLU of New Jersey, and I'm equally proud to tell you that Ruth Bader Ginsburg once worked as a cooperating attorney with us during her time as a professor at Rutgers Law School. These were the beginnings of her legendary, notorious work in pursuit of women's rights. So I'm going to share some Jersey pride with you and tell you a story of a groundbreaking case she brought during this time, right here. This is an excerpt from a book by Mary Jo Patterson. Stephen Wiesenfeld was sad and offended, but not terribly surprised by the unfairness of his situation when he wrote a letter to the editor of his local paper back in 1972. When his wife died giving birth to their first child, the Social Security Administration denied him a benefit it routinely paid to widowed mothers. If you'd told Wiesenfeld then that his letter would prompt one of the biggest gender discrimination cases of the 1970s, that the nation's highest court would rule in his favor, or that his lawyer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, would officiate one day at that same child's wedding as an Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court herself, he might have laughed. Through a series of events, Ruth Bader Ginsburg came to call Wiesenfeld about his letter. From her perspective, his case represented a fantastic opportunity, especially because the plaintiff was male. We were trying to show that arbitrary differentials based on sex hurt everybody, Ginsburg said. In March of 1973, Ginsburg and the ACLU of New Jersey sued the government in federal district court in Newark. Wiesenfeld's complaint alleged that the mother's insurance benefit, as it was called, denied him the due process and equal protection guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. By then, Ginsburg was at Columbia Law School and director of the new Women's Rights Project of the ACLU in New York. The case was heard by a 3-judge panel in Trenton. The panel ruled in Wiesenfeld's favor in December of '73, but in due course, the government appealed. Weinberger v. Wiesenfeld came before the U.S. Supreme Court in January of 1975. Ginsburg insisted that Wiesenfeld, who had traveled to Washington for the occasion, sit directly next to her during oral arguments. She felt she'd be lucky if we won, he recalled. Ginsburg underestimated her powers of persuasion. The court ruled 8-0 that the Social Security provision denying Wiesenfeld benefits was unconstitutional, and the court's ruling applied automatically to all widowers in the nation who qualified, of whom there were many. The Wiesenfeld case was a huge victory for the ACLU of New Jersey. It promoted gender equality and questioned the stereotypical view of marriage. It also leveraged the important relationship between the ACLU of New Jersey and Rutgers School of Law, which continues to this day. But most of all, it demonstrated the power of a single voice can have when it speaks out against injustice. The ACLU is 100 years old this year. We've survived times as bad as these, and some that seemed worse. I am heartened to tell you that in our 60th year, the ACLU of New Jersey is still fighting every day for gender, racial, and economic justice for all people. We pursue this work through every means available, including organizing, lobbying, and yes, litigation. We are proud of the work of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and grateful to have the opportunity to stand with you today and lift up her New Jersey legacy. Thank you.
This next speaker I am by far the most proud to introduce. She found her voice after the election of President Trump in 2016, and she's been fighting for fairness and kindness in her school and her community ever since. And one of the reasons she found her voice is because of women like you who have come here today, and the women and men who are on this porch today. She would tell you, well, actually she's 9 years old, but she would tell you that she's 9.5. Please welcome Charlotte Meyer.
Last month, my family and I traveled to Washington, D.C. to see Justice Ginsburg lying in repose at the Supreme Court. I left a drawing there that night in her memory that was a picture of the two of us with a note that said, "I will tell you a story." I am here this afternoon to be carrying on the dreams of Justice Ginsburg, to use my power, like she did, to make this world a more fair and equal place. Thanks. Justice Ginsburg said, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." Today, I want to ask kids out there to join me in using your voice to create a change. I am here because it matters what kids say. It matters what kids feel. Just because we're young, it doesn't mean we can't see the terrible things happening around us, the sickness, the discrimination, and the way people bully each other. I am here to protect kids. I want to grow up in a world that is safe, kind, caring, and brave. A world where it doesn't matter what your differences are, what color your skin is, or what you believe in or not. If you have something you need to say, your opinion matters. If you see someone being bullied at school, say something. If you see something unfair happening, say something. If you see someone lying to others, say something. Often we don't realize how powerful our voice is until we use it. And there are so many children and adults who can't speak up. And we need to be their voices for them. Justice Ginsburg was a mom. She knew what it was like to raise kids in an unfair world. Now let's all stand together, stand up for one another, and create the world she hoped for. Thank you.
And now I'd like to welcome Pastor Lisa Jones-Motley, who's the founder and senior pastor at Chosen Intercessor Ministry, for a closing prayer today.
Praise God, everybody. I thank God for everyone who came before me. I am Pastor Lisa Jones-Motley of Chosen Intercessor Ministries out of Piscataway, New Jersey. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Your Choice Restart Program out of Plainfield, New Jersey. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having me today. It was such a blessing to sit and listen to all you women and men before me. And I just know that Justice Ginsburg is looking down and she's pleased at the reason that we're here today. I believe that she's pleased on today. So I just thank God for being here on this afternoon and being amongst you women. I thank Annette Scott on today for allowing me to come forth, and Tim allowing me to come forth. And I like to reach out to the people that do not know that they have a voice to vote. Because a lot of people don't even know that they have a voice to vote. They come home from incarceration and they don't have anyone to tell them that you can vote because you're on parole and probation. They don't know it. So what I do is, I let them know. I let them know. I let them know that they can vote. If you're on parole or probation, you still can vote. Come on, let's vote. Let's vote. I tell them at my church, and I tell them throughout the world. I let them know. You can vote. Your vote matters, and your voice counts. And this is what Justice did. This is what she wanted. Just what we see here today. This is what she wanted. So I thank God for everyone that came before me, and I want to close us in prayer. Is that okay? Yes. So can we just stand up, and I'm going to say a prayer. Father God, we thank you for allowing us to come together this afternoon. We thank you for the reason that we're here. We ask you to bless everyone under the sound of my voice, Lord, that we will go out and we will make a difference in the world on today, that our vote will count, our vote will matter, and we will spread the word in the name of Jesus, that we are a woman, a man that makes a difference in the world today. Because if we don't use our voice, we will not have any reason to complain about anything. Amen? Amen. Amen.
I'm Debbie McCumber, and I'm on the board of the League of Women Voters, New Jersey, and I just want to thank everyone for being here and all these phenomenal speakers, and thank Timothy, piano and pitcher, for making this so much fun to organize. And Nancy Hedinger and the other board members, maybe stand up and wave that are here. We have two behind us, and I think Kate's over there. And I just want to repeat what the pastor said. You have to carry this forward. Vote. Help other people to know how to vote in today's, in today's COVID times. You can find out on Vote for 1-1 about your candidates and races. There's videos everywhere on how to fill out the ballot. And on the New Jersey side of the League of Women Voters. And we, the League, would like to say vote no on ballot question 3. You can go, there's lots of places you can go on our site. Oh yeah, and people may not realize, because when they fill out the ballots, that on the back of the ballot are the questions. So turn it over when you fill it out. And if, just talk to people and say, do you know how to vote today? I mean, because it's difficult, and help them find the way to do it. And vote. Get your signs up, everybody.
Come here, buddy. Be in the front.
Because you got this thing on me again. I love that he has the rainbow. It's really stiff. It's really stiff there.
Are we good?
Thank you. Thank you.
Someone take a picture of us.
Yeah. Are you going to say hi?
Yeah, I can take one of the 3 of you.
Yeah.
She got a sling on you. Come here.